This is Practically Culture, a podcast devoted to TV, movies, sometimes video games, and other pop culture. I'm your host, Logan Bose, still podcasting from Lehigh, and I'm joined as always by the one, the only Bob Caswell in the Bay Area. How are you, Bob?
Hey, doing great. How's it going with you?
You know me, just hanging out.
Nice.
Welcome to our main show. This week we review A Star is Born, and we have the usual mini reviews and weekend picks. If you like what you hear, look for us on the usual podcast app, practicallyculture.com, and on YouTube. We recommend to check it out if you're into the show. Blah, blah, blah. It's TV, it's movies, sometimes video games. It's Practically Culture. Let's rock. Oh, man, it is good to be back, Bob. And I guess the news in my life is I'm now a professional pastry cook.
Yeah, how's that going? That's exciting.
I got a decent gig at the fanciest hotel in Utah, the Grand America, which is a great place to start. And I'm new, so I'm still getting the hang of things, getting used to the schedule and all that. But there it is.
Nice. I'm just going to go out on a limb here, but are you the only ex-lawyer pastry chef there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, that's kind of a badge of honor. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think a lot of the people there think it's sort of interesting. And I'm having a good time so far.
Anybody asked you for legal advice yet? Probably not.
No, not really. But I mean, people are making jokes a little bit, but it's not that huge of a thing,
Right.
so far, really. But maybe it will be more. Who knows?
Well, that's great. I'm happy for you.
Thanks. Anyway, ready to get to this?
Yeah, let's do it.
A Star is Born. A successful musician helps a young singer find fame as they fall in love, and his age and alcoholism sent his own career into a downward spiral. Starring Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper, and Sam Elliott. Directed by Bradley Cooper. Written by Eric Roth Cooper and Will Fetters. Eric Roth, of course, who has won an Oscar for Forrest Gump, doing the writing there, and he's written a bunch of other good movies, too. Anyway, hit us with a mini review, Bob.
All right, here goes A Star is Born. The music is my favorite part, but Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga deliver in all aspects of their roles. Plus, I love the indirect commentary on the state of music. Even if the pacing and storytelling felt less personal and more distant, but it's a solid recommend. I'm going with a 4 out of 5, Logan. 4 out of 5 stars.
All right, well, here's my mini review. It didn't have to work, what with it being Cooper's first time directing and Gaga's first really big role. But it does. It's an extremely powerful and moving love story and just a really good movie. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5.
Ooh, a Logan final contender for end of the year listage. I love it.
Absolutely. I mean, just to do general impressions, I think it's a really good movie. It's nice to be in Oscar season finally, and I think this is one that will be nominated. It'll be on my list unless I see, 10 movies that are better than it, which seems unlikely. But
Right.
it's right to the top of the leaderboard for me. The thing of it is it's also a very enjoyable movie for me, which is not always the same thing as being Oscar worthy. But it's nice when the two merge.
Yeah, I hear you. I think maybe slightly less for me, but even that general sentiment is a thing where it's not often you get a drama that's about heavy themes that's also enjoyable just as a experience. Like this wasn't as draining as it could have been. There was a little bit of a, that sounded like a backhanded compliment. I mean, but movies with heavy subject matter can sometimes be like, oh, you got to psych yourself out and be like, okay, let's get in the zone. I'm ready to do this and have this movie do its thing and overtake me and with whatever it needs to do. And granted, it wasn't this movie's fault, but it had way too many previews leading up to it. And I did have a little bit of that feeling, but it was nice to come out on the other end enjoying a lot of it and having it be not so serious, even though it is really serious, as you might have thought it would have been. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the kind of movie that it's not that I'm thinking of. I guess it says a lot that I also can't think of its name, but it was nominated for an Oscar a year or two ago.
Okay.
About man, I can't remember very much of it at all, even though it was nominated. Is about like a small town in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah. The Boston one.
Famous playwright.
Manchester by the Sea.
Manchester by the Sea. That's exactly the one. It was a good movie, but I didn't enjoy it so much.
Yeah, this is way better than that one for me. Like I remember Manchester by the Sea being just purely emotional drainage and drama. And this one is like maybe only 1.5 or 2 dramas. So,
well, I mean, I don't mind drama, but
well,
for me, the variable is I just enjoyed this one a ton. Anyway, what's to like? Let's get into it a little bit. Personally, I just want to basically slow clap for Bradley Cooper a bit here. I thought he did great as a first-time director and maybe even a better job as an actor. If I were in charge of the Oscars, I'd nominate him for actor and director, but to be honest, I'd probably give it to him for actor before director. I've just been really impressed with how far he's come since being like the sexy nerdy guy in Alias and also that one dude in The Hangover to now he's like a perennial Oscar nominee. Dude can bring it. But I mean, also just a great movie, good directing, but I'm loving his acting as much as anything.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's going to get nominated at least 3 times in so much as, well, maybe not him personally, but this movie will be. It's going to definitely get director, actor, and probably best movie, best picture. And I'm with you. I think he deserves it mostly for the acting, which was phenomenal. And the directing was good, especially considering it's the first time. And who am I to say, from my armchair, oh, it could have been Scorsese more, or like, I just felt like I could see some of the weaknesses there in aspects of how the story came together that I might have stitched slightly differently, even though it was really, really good. And it sounds almost embarrassing for me to bring up my little quibbles that we could get into, but yeah, solid stuff.
Well, for me, I guess I'll admit something, and I'm really not a crier at movies, but this one kicked my ass. There were multiple moments where I couldn't hold back, and I feel like part of the construction of the movie making, the directing is to blame for that. Although I guess the question is if it's more Parenthood sentimental or This Is Us sentimental, whereas for me, if you're a longtime listener, you probably know, but for me, Parenthood is like more quality sentimental, even though sentimentality is like an independent variable. It doesn't have to go along with being great. It can be its own factor. But I thought the fact that he managed to ding me a couple times, like there's I guess to skip ahead on what I like, there's one scene like with Sam Elliott who when he's like he's driving Bradley Cooper home, and then
I remember this scene,
like puts it in reverse and backs up, and he's just, I don't know, I don't want to spoil it, but that's just what I'll say. That was just a really powerful scene there.
Yeah. It got to me too in that way. I teared up a couple times myself. I guess I was referring more to in terms of me seeing some issues with the directing. And
let's hit it. While it's coming up, let's hit it to go on things that not to love or not to like. We can some other things I liked. Go ahead. What quibbles do you have?
Well, the pacing was a little weird because it was super slowed down in the beginning. So just to set it up, and this is really a movie we recommend. It's practically endorsed in case that wasn't obvious. And so you should just go see it. So I don't need to recap too much of the plot. But, he's a rock star, basically. And he also has a drinking problem. And the movie starts super zoomed in. He's finishing up a concert. Then he runs out of booze in the back of his limo or whatever and has to find a place to stop. And he randomly goes into a bar.
A drag queen bar.
A drag queen bar, no less, without realizing it. And that's where he meets Allie, Lady Gaga's character, and that's where they kind of hit it off. And it's all very slowed down in that one night following the next morning. This part of the movie, what was it, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? I don't know. It felt like a long time.
Especially if you include like the part that goes in slow motion when like they have that night, then the next morning, and then that first show. That's all going pretty slowly, like just
pretty slowly, yeah. Like
2 hours, a day and a half or something.
Right, yeah. So basically we could say safely almost the first half of the movie is like over a day and a half of time. And then the second half of the movie sort of is a little more jerky. It covers months, if not years. And sometimes it slows down and you get 5 or 10 minutes that's like zoomed in on just, in real time, 5 or 10 minutes. And then other times it's like, oh, fast forward. And then other times, oh, zoom in. And then, so that just was noticeable to me and it sort of took me out of it because there was so much that I wanted to know about these two characters that wasn't there on display because what was shown was very, very deliberate and what was not shown had me just as interested as their relationship. And I guess if anybody's not familiar with the story, she ends up, because of him, going on her own career trajectory, and then his career is falling while hers is rising. And it's the story of her. She's the star that's born, and he's the star that's, becoming washed up, and they have a relationship through all of it. And I felt like I was watching it from across the room, what was happening, and I kind of wanted to be like, hey, wait, what color shirt are you wearing over there? Or like, if somebody asked me to describe the scene or the dynamics of this relationship, I would be missing all sorts of stuff because I only saw what Bradley Cooper wanted me to see.
Well, I mean, every movie's that way, I suppose.
Fair enough, but this movie, it stuck out to me for some reason.
Well, I guess I'll partly counterpoint, but partly agree. And the agreement is that it certainly did seem like it was taking its time and going really slowly at the beginning. And then especially when her career really starts going and when his drinking starts to come into play, like between when he passes out and meets Dave Chappelle, Noodles, versus and then the time frame in that leads up to like the Grammy Awards. Like, how long is that? Is that like a week? Is that like a year? It could be anywhere in between it. It's hard to know.
Right.
But on the other hand, I guess where I might defend it slightly is that I feel like if you look at it as like a love story, like a relationship story, and that's kind of how I look at it. The first few times you meet, those are like richer with important details. Like every single thing you say or single thing you do is like super relevant in building your own like history, and then it takes weeks or months for new things to go in like your permanent mythology, your permanent story. So in that sense, it made some sort of sense for it to the pace to pick up a little bit as it went on. But I don't entirely disagree with you.
Yeah, and it's not just the pacing. It was also like, you mentioned the Chappelle scene, and we also have Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott was a character that was more interwoven into the story. He came and went a few times. But Chappelle was like, it felt very much like an inserted, like this movie is very much about these two characters, and that's fine. But whenever other people take the screen for a minute, it just feels like a dream, because it's not connected to what happened before and what happens right after. It's like, now it's Dave Chappelle's scene. I'm like, oh, that was interesting. And then it just like moves to the something else. And then there was, Allie's father. So there's the supporting cast, I guess. The way for me to say it is that I felt like the supporting cast, for as solid as they were when they were given the time, like Chappelle could get a nomination for all I know. But they felt very inserted and like not strong as the point of anything. Like, oh yeah, we can't just have it be only two people, so let's have a supporting cast. So I just felt like I saw the seams anytime they're like, and now there's a time when we're going to have somebody other than the two leads have something to do or say. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I mean, Lady Gaga's dad, or Allie's dad, played by Andrew Dice Clay, and it's just this role that is not how I think of Andrew Dice Clay. But I thought I thought he did okay. Yeah, I mean, he had a few things, like he talks about how people told me I was better than Frank Sinatra, but I didn't have the blue eyes, so I didn't make it big. Or when he gets mad at Jack later on. I mean, those are relevant fatherly things. I felt like Dave Chappelle, I might agree with you more, because do I have this right? I was trying to think about it, but so Jack was like randomly doing a gig, and it happened to be in Nashville. And then
the timing's all sorts of screwed up.
He passes out in the middle of the street afterward, and then it happens to be nearby Dave Chappelle's house, which is like one of his best friends, but lives halfway across the country, and to just happen to meet up with him there when he passed out. That was a little bit unclear.
Right, and they make a big deal out of like, oh, I almost made it to the door, and it's like, dude, what's the probability of you getting even here and then it's to the door that's the problem? He passes out in the lawn in front, but whatever.
Yeah, you sort of have to like pay no attention to the man behind the curtain to deal with that one. But it was a good scene when they were together. I like that.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of this movie, maybe that's my way of phrasing it, which is sort of splitting the difference. I don't want to go too hardcore on this, but it felt very dreamlike. Like it's rooted in the here and now. Like we have Alec Baldwin show up as the host of SNL.
That's true.
And it's supposed to be like, this is reality in today's world, in today's regular life, except for, Jackson is a rock star we haven't heard of. He's fictional, which is totally fine. I like it. Um, but just a lot of the ways things happen and the story progresses, um, it just feels like I'm in a dream state. Like this is a slightly like it's an alternate reality, except for there's no like sci-fi giveaways like, oh, in this world people have robots for pets, or like it was reality. It's the reality I know, but there's something about it that was like, but this isn't quite reality. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And again, for me, the fact that I view it mostly as like a love story just makes that easier to do. Like if you're telling the story of like our relationship with someone, then you'll start a lot on the early stuff, and then you're like, oh, and then this one time, like, wait, was that before or after? It was both. It was not. Who remembers? That's not the point. I wanted to tell you about this one time.
Right.
So I don't know. For me, it helps smooth those things over. But it's also because it's a movie that I just enjoyed so much that any sort of hiccups or hurdles along the way, I am very forgiving of. I guess I have to admit that for myself.
That's good. No, I like that. So I don't know where we are with time, but I have one more to like and one more not to like, and I don't know how to say them.
Okay, well, go ahead. Because I have certainly more I want to say on what I liked, but go ahead.
All right, so I'll go with what I liked. The music was fantastic. Like everything for me was spot on. Both Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga, you almost like expected in some ways, which isn't fair because it's still work to pull that off. But her voice is amazing. Her job pulling off becoming a star, that trajectory in the movie, she acts it well. But Bradley Cooper especially, who apparently trained for 3 years in preparation for this role, is what I've heard. Maybe that's a rumor, I don't know. I feel like it pays off. Like he has a good voice, he has a good mystique and just rocker persona. A lot of close-ups of him doing his thing on stage. I was sold, and I like the music. Whoever wrote this music, most of it, like this is a solid album. I've listened to it on Spotify a bunch. All that said, I think it can almost distract you from looking at it as a movie, but I think it's a wonderful, wonderful distraction because it's important, because that's part of what makes the story work, is all this music being as good as it is.
Well, I think it's a musical. I think that's one of the genres you can put on it. And I like we've been getting some musicals, especially like John Carney, his stuff with like Once or stuff like that, where it's musical, but it's a different way where the music is interwoven more intrinsically to how things go, instead of just like, oh, it's time for my solo on a Broadway show. I love Broadway, but
I know we're gonna have to workshop this a little bit, Logan. But I feel like it's a musical, like how dramedies are dramas, but we have this made up term dramedy, because I feel like musical is too broad a category, because that's like Les Mis and like this other stuff, which this is not, but it is a musical in the way you just described, but we're using the same singular word. I don't know. I'll have to think through like a word that's like musidrama or something.
Well, most movie websites, IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, whatever, will list a few different things on the genre, and this one certainly is a cross trainer in that way.
Got it.
But I wanted to mention Lady Gaga too, because I thought she was really great, and you're right, it's sort of expected that she'd be great in the musical performances, but she was. I feel like it can be disappointing sometimes when you get like an actor trying to sing, and it's like, well, okay, so am I supposed to pretend that was just like an amazing singing performance, or am I supposed to think of it as mediocre like it was in reality? And luckily Gaga is good at singing, and so that wasn't an issue at all. And so, yeah, it's kind of expected that she'd be good, but a lot of movies maybe not would have not had that as a strength. And the other thing is, I thought her acting was really good. And again, I guess I'll temper the praise a little bit by saying it seems like Allie has a lot of experiences that Lady Gaga herself probably had in life, so she doesn't need to dig necessarily super deep with that. But at the same time, I thought she was good at the acting and not just the singing.
Yeah, I agree with both of those 100%. But now that we're on Lady Gaga, I do want to say I don't think it was her fault, but the writing for her character was a little problematic for me, in so much as like I never knew quite what she wanted or what she was going for. This is very much, let me phrase it a different way. I feel like this was very much Jackson's story, and even though it's called A Star Is Born and we're seeing her rise to fame, there are these scenes where she doesn't necessarily want to have backup dancers, but then she does, or she doesn't want to color her hair, but then she does, but then at the end she uncolors it, and there's like all this like she's struggling with what it means to embrace fame, but the real struggle is Jackson's struggle with alcoholism, basically, and so that becomes front and center in the second half of the movie especially. But I feel like there's something about Allie and her way of navigating life that's just sort of missing, and we just assume she's strong and does a lot of stuff off camera and has to deal with things, and I wanted to hear her story or see her story a lot more.
Yeah, I think it's about Jackson more than Lady Gaga or Allie. Yeah, I suppose that's true. I mean, partly I feel like your concerns are that you wish it were a TV show. I mean, there's only so much you can do in 2-ish hours.
Right. Or if it were a 2.5-hour movie, then I'd be whining like, oh, Logan, this movie's so long,
But I can't necessarily disagree. I just, there's more editing and selective storytelling when it's a movie. And so I guess I can live with it again because I was seduced. The other main thing I wanted to say, I just wanted to give another big nod to Sam Elliott as the things I like, because I feel like Sam Elliott, at least in the things that I've seen him in the last 10 years or so, I think he had another career before then, but
yeah,
he's almost like a caricature. Like someone was customizing Sam in the video game character creator. They turned all the knobs all the way. It's like deep gravelly voice, 10. Tall, 10. Skinny, 10. While we're at it, let's put that mustache up to 10 too. And he gets a lot of mileage out of being that guy when he shows up. But he acted his butt off here, and he was just much more complex and rich and powerful than I usually see him in something. So I was just pleasantly surprised by that factor about Sam Elliott too.
Yeah, I agree. It's the best performance I've seen from him in a long time. He could get maybe this movie's going to be nominated for even more than 3. I'm going with 3 as the minimum Oscar nominations this movie will get, but probably more. Yes,
for me, it's the leader in the clubhouse in terms of movies I've seen this year, though we have a lot more to come. But I really liked it. A really good movie. I say see it.
Me too.
Let's get to some mini reviews, Bob. I'll have you go first. You have a mini review for us.
Yeah, I want to mini review Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So this is the latest installment of the reboot of the Lara Croft series, Tomb Raider, 90s video game that's now, I guess it's 2014, 15 when it started up again. So here's my mini review. The third-person action-adventure gameplay continues to be refined and perfected for such a fun experience with awesome set pieces and breathtaking vistas, even if the story is as lackluster as ever. 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5, I don't know. It's like, I recommend it. It's a good video game. I mean, I can't say that I don't think people should play it. It's really, really good. It's just that the story is a problem, and it's kind of disappointing in that way. This is kind of the end of a trilogy. It doesn't necessarily need to be, but it could be. They could keep making video games in this series without rebooting it or coming up with a reason. But it's a nice conclusion to the 3 games that I've played, and I've played all 3 of them.
So you're saying she doesn't die at the end? Is that what I'm... Spoiler alert?
Spoiler alert, yeah. She does not die in this one. In the end, I would say I liked the gameplay, or I liked the fun factor in this one is probably really, really high. Of the 3, is probably at least tied with the first one, maybe slightly higher, and definitely more fun than the second one. As far as the story... Also, it's probably a notch down just because I just want more from video games as the years go by. But it's not that much worse. It just feels like more of Lara Croft being like, oh, must find out about history and tombs through appropriating other cultures and come and disrupting things. And then there's a bad guy that's the head of some military organization that would never exist in real life. And I have to kill all of them before they get to the artifact that releases the power that I need, that I don't know if I need. Or it's just convoluted. But then again, it fits for the video game, and it's a lot of fun. And the graphics are fantastic. The set pieces, it's kind of like, I just got done playing on the PlayStation. I'm a little late playing that. Oh gosh, my mind's going blank. The massive hit on PlayStation, that's the Naughty Dog game.
Uncharted,
thank you. Uncharted 4. Uncharted 4 also had a video game story, because you need to be able to walk through it and shoot people and search for things. But the story was as good as a video game story could be. And this game felt like it was nearly as fun as that game, but they just haven't figured out how to make the story be as good as it could be. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I played the first one of the new ones, and I felt like the gameplay was pretty fun, smooth, fluid, interesting. And that's a fine reason to play video games because it's fun to play. But it's true. I mean, I think we've talked about it for years now that we're getting a lot more interested in video game stories or telling stories in a way that only video games can, if there is such a thing. And that's one of the things that we are interested in about video games.
Yeah, for sure.
I also wanted to throw out, I just wanted to notice and appreciate the courtesy 4 out of 5 you threw in there. You didn't have to do that, but I like embracing our way of review.
Maybe I'll just slowly but surely just switch back to it entirely because I don't know that the out of 10 scale is what most people do, but fuck most people. Who cares?
Yeah, they should be more like us, not
yeah. 4 out of 5 stars for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I recommend it. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay, well, I got a mini review that I want to throw out there. This is, I'm reaching back a few months, less than a year though, I think. Pitch Perfect 3, I saw.
Oh, nice.
And here's my mini review. My heart truly is drawn to a show about a cappella singers, and I really enjoyed the first 2. This one was by far the worst of the 3. I'm giving it 2 out of 5. I regret having seen it. I wish I would have done something else with my time.
Oh, wow. What made it so bad comparatively? Was the music any good?
I mean, it was fine. I wasn't like tapping my toes and stuff as much. But this one, it like doesn't know what kind of show it is. They're like a cappella singers, but they're like not in college anymore, so they come together, and then it morphs into like this Mission Impossible spy thriller, but not a very good one. And it's like, what in the world is going on here? But they have to do this spy terrorist heist thing in the middle of it, and it's not good.
Okay.
So I don't need to waste too much more time on it. I mean, if it had gone a different direction and not tried to be a completely different movie, maybe I wouldn't have put it on the I regret seeing it side of the tennis ball net. But just in general, even the stuff that's familiar, I don't feel like it was quite as strong as the first 2. So I was just...
So even as an Anna Kendrick completionist fan, it's still 2 out of 5 for you. That wasn't enough to like...
Yeah, see this last if you're going for the Anna Kendrick completionism.
Okay, got it. Good.
Anyway, do you have another mini review for us?
Yeah, I got one more. I want a mini review. Joe Rogan, Strange Times.
Oh, this is actually a comedy special that I'm considering seeing just because I like Joe Rogan's podcast. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you should see it. Here's my mini review. A great cross-section of insightful and funny. I really enjoyed his material here and think... what am I saying here? And think this is his best comedy work so far, notwithstanding the fact that he's still not super accessible or easy to recommend. But hell, I'm going to recommend him. 4 out of 5.
When you say not super accessible, you mean he swears a lot or talks about gross things, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, sure, he swears.
Or you just have to be a true comedy connoisseur to understand it, like a fine wine.
Yeah, well, accessible is like... anatomical stuff doesn't necessarily need to be part of your act for you to be funny. He doesn't cross that. He doesn't raise it to that bar. He's still got like a lot of asshole jokes and just stuff that like I can't enjoy this with a good chunk of my family, you know?
Okay.
But that's not to say that it's not funny or that it isn't interesting. But I do, as part of my metrics, I guess, if we get a little meta, is accessibility is one of the dials that I look at, and he's not going for it at all. But that could inversely be part of his charm. He says it as it is, as he sees things, and he's, dare I say, he's got a little bit of a, and I say this in a positive way, people. He's got a little bit of a Louis C.K. vibe going, because
I like Louis C.K.
Yeah, I still like Louis C.K. too. As a comedian, he's great. I just have to couch everything in these weird terms now. But he's a lot of his stuff, Joe Rogan, is like insightful, where he's like, now why is this way? And he tells a story about something that has a little bit of a longer thread, and then at the end it has a payoff that's still kind of funny, but it's more about the journey and the story. And Louis C.K., I think, is at the top of doing that better than anyone. And Joe Rogan does it a little bit. But in some ways, he's probably, I would say, even funnier than Louis C.K. in some of his bits. Anyway, it's a solid recommend. I'm just saying, go in with your eyes wide open because it's not accessible.
All right, cool. I've tried a little bit. I know you're much bigger into stand-up comedy than I am, and I see a lot of them that are supposed to be classics, and I don't know. It's not for me.
This one, because you listen to his podcast, The Logan, you'll like it, I'm pretty sure, and it is his best one. So if you're going to watch Joe Rogan do stand-up, this is the one to see.
Yeah, based on your interview that you recapped right there, and those are the reasons that I think that I probably will give this one a try. Cool.
Nice.
Let's get to some weekend picks. I've got a couple here for us. First, Friday on Amazon Prime is The Romanoffs. And I need to bring
what's that about?
Here because I'm really excited for The Romanoffs because the first thing I'm going to say is that this is Matt Weiner's new show. And of course, Matt made maybe my favorite TV show ever, Mad Men. So that means it's a guaranteed watch for me. But check out some of the other people involved. I'm going to look at the list I have here. We got Aaron Eckhart, Catherine Hahn, Corey Stoll, Paul Reiser, Ron Livingston, Amanda Peet, and John Slatter and Christina Hendricks from way back in Mad Men days. So I am going to watch the hell out of this show. I just hope it's good.
Wow. What network is it on?
Amazon Prime.
Woo! That's an easy sell. Sure. That starts this Friday? Okay.
And just reading, I feel like I should have done more background info, but I feel like I should know more about this one, but apparently Matt Weiner had a little bit of some #MeToo going on, and the original production studio is the Weinstein Company, so that has delayed it a little bit. And I almost don't want to know about those things, but I guess if I want to be, #woke, I should look into those things to know the whole context here. But I am going to watch this no matter what.
That's funny because part of me is like, hey, I know about something that Logan doesn't know about stuff that he knows about normally more, but then I don't know that much more. I just know that I followed his Me Too story a little bit and it wasn't that interesting. And that's enough to talk about.
Yeah, let's leave that right there. The other one I want to mention is Friday on HBO, which is Pod Save America coming to HBO. And I've listened to these guys since they were on Grantland and now on their own podcast network. And I have mixed feelings. I mean, I listen as ethnography. There's a certain point of view that they embody that I like to keep tabs on. At the same time, part of that point of view is just like the height of like smug, self-righteous progressiveness. Yeah. And that upsets me sometimes. So I have a love-hate thing going on with these guys, but I know a lot of people I know are going to be excited about this coming to HBO, and I'll probably watch. But yeah, that's something that is happening.
Yeah, I'm interested, but maybe not as much as you on the issue side, but similarly, yeah, I take it with a grain of salt. But I'm curious to see how they do it.
Anyway, let's talk movies, Bob. What do you got for us?
Oh, wow. This week, I have to mention 4 movies, and I want to see all of them, so I don't know what we're going to do other than...
We're finally in that time of year.
Yes, exactly. So the first one is First Man, not surprisingly. This is Ryan Gosling, Claire Foy, and this is the Damien Chazelle directing movie after La La Land. And it's the riveting story of NASA's mission to land a man on the moon, focusing on Neil Armstrong in the years 1961 to 1969. This seems like the movie to see, especially for homework for Oscars, but not just for that. It seems like it's going to be a good movie. I'd ask you how you feel about it, but I'm pretty sure I know. But I'll ask you anyway. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, well, Damien Chazelle has like never been below 4.5 stars for me in either of his first 2. And I know that, we've discussed there's a little backlash to La La Land not being maybe the best movie of all time. And fine, it's not the best movie of all time, but I loved it. I loved Whiplash. So I'm definitely seeing this. Absolutely. And I like Ryan Gosling a lot.
Good. Okay. So that's probably the one we'll prioritize, but still up to come, and that we might still review at some point, Bad Times at the El Royale. This movie, I'm not quite sure what's going on with it, but it's one of those where when I see the preview, I don't mind seeing it again. I just think it's hilarious and just a lot of fun. 7 strangers, each with a secret to bury. They meet at Lake Tahoe's El Royale, a run-down hotel with a dark past. We got Jeff Bridges, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, and what's his name? Chris Hemsworth shows up with his shirt off like in every scene. Nick Offerman. I should have looked up this director. Written and directed by Drew Goddard.
Well, he did. I'm clicking on that one now that you mention it. What has he done?
Oh, he wrote The Martian. Oh, and World War Z. He's a screenwriter mostly, but he directed Cabin in the Woods. Oh my God, that movie was so good. We got to see it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. He's written a lot of good movies. World War Z, The Martian. Done a lot of TV too. So that is a good sign. I agree. This the trailer seems like it has potential. It seems like it could be super just fun to hang out with these people, vaguely reminiscent of Ocean's 11 or something like that. But that's not always the easiest to pull off, where it's just so fun and pleasurable to watch. So I'll hope for the best.
Yep. Likewise. Next up is Beautiful Boy. Now, this is Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet with Amy Ryan. It's based on the best-selling pair of memoirs from father and son, David and Nick Sheff, and it chronicles their father-son relationship, coping with addiction over the years, and very much what looks like a drama type of.
That's not usually a compliment from you.
I know I should be. I'm interested in this movie, but I do have to get in the zone for it because I'm going to learn about the human condition and tragedy, or that's what I assume, but I don't know.
Poor you.
What do you think about this?
It's sort of intrigued. I mean, especially since we got what am I trying to say? Like every week, there's only so many movies I can watch, and it's competing with a lot. But I don't think I'd hate it, but it's not one that I see the preview and I'm like, oh, this is definitely on the list. But I could see it and be happy seeing it, I'm sure.
Okay, good. And last but not least is The Happy Prince. This is the directorial debut of Rupert Everett, and it's written by him as well, and it's about the last days of Oscar Wilde and the ghosts that haunted them. And it's getting a lot of buzz for Rupert Everett's performance. He's also the lead in this movie. So very British looking. It's got Colin Firth as well. It seems like something, Tom Wilkinson, something I'm eventually going to see. How do you feel about this?
Fine. I imagine there's a good chance I will see this too, but I don't know if it's rising to the top of my weekly list.
Fair enough. So those are the movies. I think First Man is what we're going to see first, but we might see more, and maybe this week, maybe later, but we'll get to it.
All right. Well, there you go. It's TV, it's movies, it's Practically Culture. There are some picks for you. Go forth and watch. And that is this week's episode of Practically Culture. Join us next week as we review First Man, and we have the usual min reviews and weekend picks. You can find more from us at practicallyculture.com, your favorite podcast app, and on YouTube. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. I'm at Logan, Bob's at Bob Caswell. Send us a message, ask us a question, let us know you like the show. Get out there and watch some TV and movies, people, play some video games. That's good for you. Thanks for rocking with us.
Have a good one.